Hi, everybody. Welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Stephanie Scolaro. I'd like to start by wishing my beautiful granddaughter, Ella, a very happy birthday. It was actually on the 11th, but I just wanted to give her a little shout out from her Nana and Nana. Today, there has literally been so much breaking news. I kind of was like a little frazzled trying to get the show together for everybody. Just every hour there was something happening, something new happening. I kind of feel like that's how this whole past week has been. So we'll go over some of these things and see what we can dive into. And I'm just gonna, tell you guys what I think, and you can let me know how you feel about it. So one thing that I did see before I started getting prepared for the show today was RFK actually made it through. He was confirmed by the Senate. And then I watched him get sworn in. And I will say, I know this sounds really kind of weird, but I got a little bit emotional when I saw him take the oath of office. I think it's because, I've I've seen the history books. His father did that, and his uncle did that, and they both were taken away in front of all of us very violently. And he was alive. He knew his dad. And this guy lost so much growing up. He couldn't, he shared his sorrow of losing his family members with all of us. His life has been public ever since. And he's had his own trials and tribulations. He's said that he's had issues with drug abuse, and basically all he's done is really serve the public in his jobs. He was an environmental attorney. He worked for the people, finding, suing big companies on behalf of us. And, as an advocate for people that have suffered from substance abuse, he's always done that. So I watched his Senate hearings, and I watched these senators be disgustingly rude and condescending and just blatantly disrespectful. First of all, he's a member of a first family, basically, the Kennedys. They're like America's first family. Just his name alone and the fact that he is RFK Jr. should have given him a certain amount of, respect and courtesy, because his family has served our nation. Most people in his family have done some kind of service to the country. So whether it was they were in the military or, they served in public office of some kind. So, the way they were behaving was just disgusting to me. And then his response was, when he's asked, why did you want to run for this position? Why did you become part of President Trump's team? And he said, well, I didn't abandon the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party abandoned me. It did not, has become a party that I do not recognize. It is no longer the party of my father and of my uncle. So I had to abandon it. President Trump and the Republicans of today are more in line with the things that I would like to see America get done. And then he said that he's very religious, he's Catholic, and he said that he has asked God, if I'm not going to be president, because he had stopped running for the president, then please put me or allow me to serve in a position so that I can help people live healthier lives and be healthy. And then this opportunity came up with President Trump. So I just thought that was a great answer, and I'm glad he's been confirmed and sworn in. Now I'm just worried about his safety in general. The pharmaceutical companies in our world hold immense power. We're talking about billions with a B dollars, maybe more. I don't know. And that is going to be affected by decisions that RFK is going to make now when he's in the head of the HHS. He essentially is going to run. Well, actually, I have it listed here. Let me read it to you. So the United States Department of Health and Human Services includes many agencies, and here are some of them. the Public Health Service, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, otherwise known as CMS, and the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, okay? And underneath these comes a lot. So under Public Health Service, it's the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, the Health Resources and Services Administration. That's the HRSA, which helps to improve access to health care for people that are either isolated by where they live, or they're poor or uninsured or medically vulnerable. The Indian Health Services, which provides services to American Indians or Alaskan Natives, and the National Institutes of Health, which supports wonderful biomedical and behavioral research. And they train young researchers. Wonderful. The other HHS agencies that he'll be over are ACF, Administration for Children and Families, the ACL, the Administration for Community Living, the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, that's called ARPA, the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, that's ASPR, and the Centers for Medicaid, CMS. So that's all the agencies that he's going to be on top of, okay? And that's a lot of responsibility. Think about the amount of money that's involved here, okay? We're talking about medications, pharmaceuticals, vaccines, medical procedures, hospitals. That all falls just under one little area there, CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, right? So you got to worry about the supplies that are in stock, like we just had COVID, right? And we had to make sure that we were stocked with PPE and all that. And guess what? We didn't have half the stuff that we needed because the Obama administration depleted it and left it depleted. So, that's part of things that he's going to have to be over. It's a lot of responsibility with a lot of money involved. So I'm preparing myself to be disgusted once Doge gets in there and really starts looking into payments that are being made under Medicare and Medicaid. I suspect there's going to be huge amounts of Medicare and Medicaid fraud. I mean, just think about COVID-19. Everyone I knew was looking into selling PPE during COVID-19. PPE, personal protective equipment, which is like gloves, masks, the gowns, cleaners, paper for the beds, sharps containers for the injections and all that stuff, right? And the COVID-19 tests, the swabs and all that. Imagine the amount of money given out in loans to businesses, those COVID loans that we're getting out. We already know that there's been tons of fraud that happened with those loans, and we haven't even touched on that yet. Imagine the amount of money that was given to hospitals and facilities that fell, quote, into compliance by using the CDC, NIH COVID protocols, by implementing all the rules that were given for treatment of COVID. You know that they got money, right? I don't know if you know that, but yes, all hospitals and medical facilities were incentivized. And when I say incentivized, I mean threatened with pulling their Medicare or Medicaid contracts if they did not comply with whatever CDC said, this is what we're going to do. So some dude that works in the CDC that may or may not have been a medical physician who's actually treated patients in a facility, some guy that he could be an MD or PhD and, understands vaccines, vaccinations and things, but has never treated live patients other than mice and dogs, is giving the world the ultimatum that you better follow my orders or else we're going to pull your huge Medicare, Medicaid contracts with all these big companies and corporations. Imagine the huge medical companies that own all these hospitals. There's very few physicians still in private practice because all these hospital groups are buying people out. They're making it difficult for us to have great health care that we're in control of. It used to be that you're supposed to have a relationship with your physician. My dad was a family physician for almost 50 years. I worked for him from the time I was 14 up until I was 40 years old. So, learning the business, he wanted me to learn from the beginning. I had to learn and start from, licking envelopes as a teenager in there and mailing out stuff to patients, filing charts and doing stuff like that, to actually learning to be, a nurse per se in the back office working with all the technicians. He only had RNs that worked there. And then later on, when people started having degrees to be an MA or a CNA or LPN, he hired more of them. But in the beginning, when I worked there, was only RNs and my father, the doctor. So, he had a full lab in his office. He had a full X-ray lab in his office where we had an X-ray machine and a technician that would take the film and dip it and put it in the dark room, and he would look at all the X-rays like that. He did minor surgeries in his office. He had physical therapy in another area of his office because he was a DO, so he could do physical manipulation. Do you know of any doctors that do that now? I don't. I think it's sad. And the kids coming out of med school are not being taught to really care about their patients. They're being taught to be a business guy. Come out. Now, I will say this. Before, when my dad was young and in med school, they didn't really teach about business administration of an office or any of that. They really focused on actual treating of the patient and, different aspects of different types of medical specialties. Now they focus on that, but they also focus on business, which is a good thing, so that doctors are aware of what's going on in their own business. However, majority of doctors that I'm seeing coming out of school, they don't really care about helping people. It's more about, I'm going to have status. I'm a doctor and I get ultimate status with that title. And, I'll make good money and have a big house and go on vacations. That's sad to me. It's very sad. So I'm hoping that RFK Jr. is going to do some serious work on HHS. I find it to be extremely important. Under the Biden administration, HHS spent $20 billion on illegals. They gave them business loans, they gave them money for school, different things, and they hid it under HHS. Okay? We're talking about billions and billions of dollars in, quote, vaccines too, So after COVID, a lot of the pharmaceutical companies actually lost a lot of money because they made all these vaccines, and now then people started dying and, after having side effects from the vaccines, and the pharmaceutical companies started losing money because people had vaccine hesitancy. And a lot of those companies blame that on RFK Jr., because he sought the truth. He sought the truth on the actual efficacy of the vaccines that are being given to our kids. I mean, listen, I am not a mother that gave birth. I have stepdaughters. And when I had my stepdaughters were already adults and married and having babies. So I didn't have a child that I had to take to the doctor and make a decision about vaccines. My sister had a child. So I was privy to what was going on with him. Plus, my dad used to give vaccines in the office for a time, and then they moved it all to the pediatricians. They took that away from the family physicians. So, and I don't really know why that happened. I mean, I'm going to assume it was monetary because they give pediatricians incentives, monetary incentives, to give out certain vaccines. So they get paid if they give them a big, box of vaccines. It comes like this, and there's all the little vials in the box, and you put it in the fridge and you use it. So if you use a box of these, the doctor gets paid so much money. That's how it works. I never knew that because in family medicine, my dad didn't get paid for anything. He was the lowest paid guy on the totem pole. Saw the most patients, had to do the most work. We had to write up all the orders. We had to do all when the insurance companies started doing requiring referrals. yes, I worked before there were actual referrals from insurance companies. Yep. I also worked before we had electronic filing, and I was working with paper charts. My father had thousands of patients and patient charts. And I honestly prefer patient charts. You write things once, you know where the chart is, you get it, and that's it. Actually doing all this stuff on the computer, redundant and waste time. The only good positive thing about it is that other people around can access. So it makes that a little easier. You don't have to actually mail records to somebody or fax a record. That's it. So, yep, your doctor is being incentivized by pharmaceutical companies to give your children certain vaccines. Yes, they are. So that's just, I believe as a parent, you should know that information. Okay. So when I was a kid, I was born in 1970. By the time I was in school, I think I can tell you. So here's the doses. In 1962, and around that time, my parents were graduating from high school and going into college. They required 5 doses, five doses, and there were 3 vaccines. That's it: polio, smallpox, and DTP. When I was in school, around 1983, I was 13, so I was in junior high at that time. 24 doses of different vaccines. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 vaccine. That's it. And I was done with all my vaccines at the age of 15 or 16, 15, 16. And we had to make sure we had those to get into college. You had to have all your basics done. In 2018, it was 72 doses. And in 2024, it was 79 doses. There is nothing we need 79 doses of. I'm very sorry. Vaccines are not going to do the work of your own immune system. And children are the most resilient of all of us. The older you get, the worse you get. So I just say, I want to be aware of what's going on in my body. I am a breast cancer survivor. I want to know what's going in my body because my body does not like anything anymore. After treatment for cancer, you become sensitive to everything, allergic to everything. So you got to be really careful. So personally, I'm very proactive. I look into things, okay, so that I'm aware of what's going on because nobody's telling me. So I need to do my own research for myself. And when I have questions, I go to my physician and I say, hey, I looked this up. What do you think about that? What's your opinion on that? And then I make a decision on should I pursue this or not pursue this? Should I try this med or not? Make an informed decision for yourself. I'm not against vaccines. I had vaccines, but I'm against all these vaccines. You don't need 79 vaccines. I'm sorry. You don't. And a lot of these are like repeat doses of the same thing. So why do you need repeat doses of those things? You just don't. I mean, there's polio, I think polio, maybe you need 1 or 2. There's a few like pertussis. They're making these children, little babies, 1, 2, 3-month old, getting multiple rotavirus, influenza, pertussis, pneumococcal. I mean, I will tell you my dad's philosophy on vaccines: spread them out, have informed consent, understand what is going on and what the vaccine could possibly do, and just spread them out. He did not give children multiple vaccines on the same day. He didn't do it. So that's what he advised, a doctor. And he was a great diagnostician, I will say that. I'm not just saying it because he's my dad. He was a great diagnostician. So I trust what his advice used to be. And that's what my sister has utilized for my nephew. So, you can look this up yourself. It is available on the CDC website. And you can find all that information there. I don't trust them. it's been changed, and other people have access to that website. It's not just one or two people that add the information in. There's a lot of people that have access to it. So I don't trust. It's like Wikipedia. Everybody has access to Wikipedia. Certain people can get in there and change Wikipedia. So it's, I still have encyclopedias at my house. I can go look it up. In fact, look up stuff in things that are prior to 1953, and I bet you'll be very enlightened on history. Very. So now that RFK Jr. is in there and is going to be looking at everything, I trust him to do the right thing. He's always tried to do the right thing, so I trust him to do that. But I say prepare yourself, because once he gets in there and starts really finding out about monies that have been spent and attitudes of different medications and things, and attitudes of pharmaceutical companies toward us as consumers, you're going to be probably pretty sick. Another recommendation I have is, I believe you should read this book on COVID-19. That's going to be starting. You're going to start hearing a lot more about that. This is RFK Jr.'s book. I don't know if you can see this or if it's backwards. It says The Real Anthony Fauci. Okay. And it's written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Along with the Children's Health Defense. And he talks about Bill Gates, Big Pharma. He talks about public health and how it's changed over the years. And he gives you a lot of history and background on Dr. Anthony Fauci. And it's very enlightening, and you will be absolutely disgusted and incensed after you read it. So, in saying that, there's a whistleblower that has now come out regarding COVID-19. I haven't really heard a lot of people discussing this, and I find this to be something very upsetting to me, because my father, the doctor I just talked to you about, died from COVID-19. No, I take that back. He did not die from COVID because he developed COVID pneumonia. He died from the protocol that was forced upon our hospitals by the CDC and Dr. Fauci. The protocols of giving remdesivir in multiple doses and then putting people on vents. That protocol killed more people than I can tell you. And my dad happened to be one of those. He was 75 years old, still treating his patients, wearing full PPE, mask, jacket, gloves, and changing them in between every patient. And he still died. So I have a bone to pick. Here's what's coming out now. A leading scientist from China's Wuhan Institute of Virology has spoken out to blow the whistle by claiming that the United States taxpayer-funded Chinese lab engineered COVID-19 as a bioweapon to reduce the population of humans around the world. It comes as damning evidence has emerged, revealing that the U.S. Agency for International Development, that is USAID, people, USAID, used taxpayer money to fund the development of COVID-19 as a bioweapon in the same Wuhan laboratory. This is a fact. This is not a joke. It's a fact. And it's disgusting. And I will tell you that I said this in the beginning when it came out. I knew it. It's just the way I felt about it. I said this was done intentionally. They did it intentionally, and they bioengineered it to take out older Americans because they're a drain on Medicare and Medicaid. Not to mention, they also tend to vote more conservatively. The older Americans tend to vote more conservatively. So they took them all out with a disease that they knew would take out most people in a certain age bracket, because most of the time those people have certain comorbidities okay, like coronary artery disease. And what are you usually on if you have coronary artery disease? ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors react very interestingly with COVID-19. And that was done intentionally. And that's called the spike protein that starts to take over and fills your body with clots so your blood can no longer get around to your vital organs. Things start to shut down and you die. So, this guy, he's a scientist. He says, his name is Chao Shan. He did an interview with the Asian News International reporter. Her name is Jennifer Zhang. So this doctor, scientist, said he had firsthand information and very unique insights about China and the CCP. Okay? He said that he and his colleagues at the Wuhan lab were tasked with identifying the most effective strain for spreading among various species, including humans. He was given 4 strains of coronavirus by his superior in Nanjing City in 2019 to test which one of them was the most virulent and transmissible. He tested the virus on human ACE2 receptors, bats, and monkeys. ACE2 receptors. So patients that were on ACE inhibitors would be more susceptible to this because they checked to see how this disease would respond to that. He says that the researchers at the Wuhan lab were under orders to develop the coronavirus as a bioweapon to kill humans. He also said that several of his colleagues went missing during the 2019 Military World Games in Wuhan. And later, one of them revealed that they were sent to hotels where athletes from various countries were staying to quote unquote check the health or hygiene conditions. So this gentleman, this scientist says, checking hygiene does not require a virologist, so he knew that they were sent there to spread the virus. This is a very long interview that he did with a group here called Slay News. And it's a long interview, and they also go into Dr. Fauci's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, the NIAID, and they say that was in fact funding dangerous gain-of-function research at a Wuhan lab with American tax dollars. So we paid for them to make a bioweapon that killed millions of us. My tax dollars essentially went in to killing my own parent. His tax dollars paid for his death. This is just the tip of the iceberg, my friends. I think we're going to get to the truth, and it ain't going to be pretty. Nope. So Pam Bondi is our new AG, and she seems to be getting right to work. She is already suing the state of New York, Kathy Hochul, the governor, Letitia James, the AG, and Mark Schroeder, the head of DMV there, because they're not defending their citizens against illegal immigrants that are committing crimes in the city and the state, and they're not abiding by the new immigration laws that have been put into effect under the Trump administration. They are allowing illegal immigrants to get identification through the DMV, which then allows them, because they now have ID, to obtain state and federal benefits. Okay, they already sued Illinois. I think they're in the process of that lawsuit as well for doing the same thing. I mean, who do these people think they are? The state. I'm talking about the state. Who do they think they are? They do not determine the laws of our border protection or immigration. I mean, my opinion is any state that doesn't want to listen to the administration and the rules and regulations that have been set forth by the new president and his administration, consider seceding from the Union of States. Please do us all a favor and get out. Make your own little country. And then you can do whatever you guys want to do. You can take, I don't know, 100 vaccines. You can vaccinate yourself for every little thing that you think that you could possibly get sick from. I mean, please do it. You know, California, New York, just form your own thing, man. And you know what? You can have Oregon too. Oregon's a lovely place. And I understand that really it's only like a small section of Oregon that is actually blue and very, very progressive. And the rest of the state is like, can we just be a part of another state close to us? Because I think they wanted to be part of, I want to say Idaho. That's one of the states that's real close to them. I mean, if you're not going to follow the law, then you shouldn't be part of the states and you shouldn't be getting federal money. So Pam Bondi has pulled that money. What I want to know is, where's the tax-paying citizens of New York? Where's the tax-paying citizens of California? Why are you not speaking up? Why are you not doing something? Get in front of the news. Get on the TV. Get on Twitter, for God's sake. I'm sorry, Elon. On X. Get on X. X right now is the least censored form of social media out there right now. Get on there. Get on there and just video yourself and say what you think about this stuff going on in your cities. Speak up. I know there's a lot of you out there that are not happy with things that are going on. It has nothing to do with political party. It has to do with the safety and security of your family and of your home and of your car and of all the things you've worked your entire life for, saved money for, worked hard for. I mean, speak up. Your children are being killed. So now Tom Homan, the new border czar, and Kristi Noem, the new Secretary of Homeland Security, are making progress on getting those borders sealed up and on deporting the criminal immigrants that are here and that are killing people, raping people, burglarizing places, stealing stuff, destroying property, selling drugs, taking over neighborhoods, gangs that are taking over neighborhoods. Oh, yeah, but they're not doing that in Colorado. They're not doing that. That's a lie. They didn't do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Talk to the people in New York because they're doing it there, too. It's gangs. They're coming in and they're taking over areas. And they're making money by selling drugs and sex trafficking. Yeah, it's a real thing. It's happening, okay? They're telling you it's not. They're lying. If you want to know the truth about things actually going on, get on X and just scroll. Start looking at other people's stuff. I mean, I can recommend people to follow Elon Musk. He posts about every kind of thing going on, and you will see what's going on. I follow lots of independent reporters. Catherine Herridge is a great reporter. I follow Michael Schellenberger, great reporter. There's just a lot of accounts there that are really great. If you want to know, go on Twitter, on X, make an account for yourself. If you're not sure who to follow, look me up. I'm under Straight Talk SES. Straight Talk SES, okay? And sometimes if you put in Stephanie Scolaro, you can find me as well. So look me up and go and look at all the people I follow. And that makes it easier for you to find, people to follow. I only follow reliable people. If people start, spewing stuff that has already been found to be untrue or real stupid, conspiracy theories that have already been found out to be untrue, I don't follow them anymore. I will unfollow because I don't want that kind of stuff in my timeline, because when I'm bringing you information, I want to make sure that the things that I'm telling you are things that have been verified. So, and if something I tell you is incorrect, please reach out and let me know, and I will be happy to correct that on air. So while Tom Homan and Kristi Noem are trying to get the illegal migrants out, okay, especially the bad guys, that's who they're trying to get out right now. Just the bad guys. Let's get them out. People are leaking when they're going to do the raids. So they were doing great. They were doing good numbers and getting these people out. And all of a sudden, they had a big raid planned in Aurora, Colorado, where the gang, Tren de Aragua, was there, right? They took over a couple apartment complexes there. And they were doing a lot of bad stuff. And they had a big raid planned. They knew where they were. And somebody leaked it. And then it was on the radio in LA. And it ruined a huge raid they were doing in LA. And somebody leaked it. And what's interesting is that I was reading that the radio station that leaked it is one of the new radio station that George Soros was allowed to purchase and the FCC under the Biden administration allowed it. He literally purchased hundreds of radio stations. And that should not be allowed. It should not be allowed, okay? He has proven himself to be a hater of the United States and of actual democracy, right? We're a republic, and he doesn't like that form of government, and he's doing everything that he can to try to undermine. He wants one world government, and he tries to undermine us at every chance he gets. And one of those chances was purchasing one of these radio stations, and they leaked the information. Now they have found out that the FBI actually leaked some of that information, and it may have been the one in LA. Okay? So this is dangerous when you do that. You're not helping your cause if you think you're helping the people that are here. Oh, I feel bad for them. I want to help them. They shouldn't be kicked out. Oh, you feel bad for men that have killed young girls out there and raped them? You feel bad for those guys that are killing and raping and then being let out of jail on cash with no bond, and they're let out and they go back out and reoffend and kill somebody else? You're fine with that? Because I'm not. I'm not fine with that. Okay? I'm not. Now, if you're here and you've had a job and you haven't broken the law and you came here illegally, okay, but you've gotten yourself a house and you've got a little apartment and you're trying to make a life for your family. Okay, that's great. And I'm glad that you're not committing crimes and you're here trying to make a better life for yourself. But you have to do it in the right way. And I do think that something needs to happen where you have to, if you're getting public funding for things, you need to be cut off from that, because taxpayers should not be paying for someone who's here illegally. And we have other people that have literally been in line to get here legally. You should go behind those people. I don't know what else, they could come up with, and I'm sure somebody will come up with something, but I don't think you should, be necessarily kicked out per se. Okay. But you might have to leave the country if you've been living off of public funds, taxpayer funding. You might have to leave the country and go back until you can reapply the right way. But as far as these criminals, they need to be out. I have zero sympathy. I want them out. They just need to be out. So, and as far as these leakers, when they find them, because they're going to find them, because the DOJ has even said they're going to look for them, they're going to find them, and when they do, they're going to lose their job, they're going to lose their pension, and they're going to go to jail. So that's even worse. And now they're not going to send money. There'll be no federal money sent to sanctuary states or sanctuary cities any longer. So I think that's good. And hopefully that will start taking place soon. But so far, we're moving along in the border situation. Now, here's the latest thing that congressional Democrats are pushing for. And this is a little bit controversial. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I really don't have enough information on this to really have a full-on discussion about it. I have to educate myself before I really talk about the subject matter, but I can give you some quotations on people that are discussing it. So the congressional Democrats are now pushing for legislature leading to reparations for slavery and for anyone who is found to be a relative, a descendant of someone that was once a slave in the United States. So I'll say what I really think this is. I think this is pandering to Black Americans because the Democratic Party knows that they lost a lot of Black Americans to Trump. And I believe now they're looking for every possible thing they can look for to try to get all the Black voters back that they lost to Trump. And that's really what I think it is. It's pandering. And if I were a Black American, I would be offended by that. That's just my personal opinion. Okay. Now, this is what Ayanna Pressley has to say about it. She said, our government has an obligation to right the wrong, to provide reparations to descendants of enslaved Africans. White supremacy is rampant in this country. You are benefiting right now from an economy that was built on the brutalized backs and the indignities and the horrors of chattel slavery and our African ancestors. She says, we can legislate justice. We can legislate healing. We are long overdue. So what she's saying is, give me a big pot of money and I'll feel a lot better about what happened during slavery. Money is not going to make it better. Money is not going to change history. I think slavery was disgusting. In fact, as a child, my parents made my sister and I, we were little when it came out, the original Roots. And I know it sounds stupid, but for us as kids, I was young. Like, I don't think it was the 70s. So I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And, I saw that, and my mom, my dad, me, and my sister all crying watching this and asking my parents, how could they do that to people? Why would they do that to them? Why, and asking questions. And my parents sat and talked to us all about it, my sister and me, about it and how awful it was and what they used to do. My parents were in school. They were in elementary school when they brought in the first Black student to Hillsborough County here in Tampa, Florida. And my dad, they were in school. And my dad, they went to a Latin school. It was mostly from the Latin neighborhoods. My parents are Italian and Spanish. So they sent him to that school because they felt like it would be a little easier there. Okay. So it was all the minorities there. So my dad and his friends went to him and, said, listen, you can sit with us at lunch, and, tried to make him feel as at home as possible. I can't even imagine how awful that felt. That whole subject matter is very upsetting. And yes, I think a conversation needs to be had about it, but it needs to be factual and truthful, not made up things for drama, for dramatization. There's no one alive now that had anything to do with slavery. Okay? There's no one alive. It happened long enough that there's really no one still alive. Maybe someone has a great-grandparent or great-great-grandparent that may still remember being a child during that time. I don't know. But most people that suffered directly from slavery are no longer alive. I also know, how do you prove that you're a descendant of slavery? Because simply being a Black American does not make you a descendant from slavery. It just doesn't. So, and some Black Americans actually owned slaves too. So what do you do if that's the case? You're going to make other Black Americans pay reparation? So those things need to be discussed. I think it's a serious conversation that needs to be had, but I really feel like these people in Congress are being disingenuous by trying to talk about it. It needs to be a bigger conversation. I think that Scholars need to be involved. Historians need to be involved. People that, actually that we all trust to get to the bottom of it. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. We can only learn from our bad things that we did and never repeat them again. And I do think it's a conversation that needs to be had. But a lot of this 1619 stuff that they're trying to tell your children in school, it's all brainwashing. It's brainwashing. It's not educating. It's brainwashing. So let's start really educating what actually happened and where us slaves came from. Because really, every person alive right now, somewhere in the world, their people were once slaves. Most of every type of human being had relatives that were slaves at some point in time in history. And America was one of the first to do away with slavery. So, we tried, although I don't think we did a great job. And as far as white supremacy goes, that's a very minor group of people in all of the United States. I don't know anyone that is a white supremacist, and I know a lot of people. And I don't know not one person that is a white supremacist. Not one. My entire life, I've never met anybody like that. I don't affiliate myself with people that talk that way or think that way anyway. Some of my family members happen to be Black American. Some of my closest friends are Black American. And I have friends from all walks of life, all, economic status, all types of jobs. I just have a lot of different friends and family, and I was exposed to a lot of different kind of people as a young person, especially working in my dad's office, where he had poor migrant families that would come to him as a doctor, and they didn't have money to pay, and he said, "Okay, great, see you next week." I mean, he did not charge them. He's like, "They're sick, they need to be seen, put them in a room." So that's how I was raised. You care for people, period. So I don't want to see anybody getting taken advantage of, especially by people in Congress that are looking for taxpayer dollars to do things that we maybe don't know about again, right? I also saw this thing on TV today. It was a story out of Worcester, Massachusetts. It was all over the news. And it was a local hearing, okay, for the city government, where they were going to vote, okay, on whether or not they were going to consider Worcester, Massachusetts to become a trans sanctuary city. There's a vote for it. And a lot of supposed transgender people showed up to comment and, make a comment about what they felt about this, this being passed. They got up to the podium. Some of them were screaming and yelling and things you couldn't even understand. Some of them were acting. Some of them were dressed absolutely ridiculous. It looked like you were at a cosplay convention with the things they were wearing. Some of them looked like it was a drag show convention. This is not, I have transgender people in my family. Okay. And they went through the change as an adult, 18. Okay. Didn't have, surgeries or anything until they were of age. But, felt always they were in the wrong body from the time they were young, and expressed that. And with their parents' permission, they went through the change and now live life as a male. Okay. So, but they don't dress with blue wigs. They don't dress with blue wigs. They don't wear this shadowing makeup like you do when you're on stage for a drag show. And they don't scream, yell, cry, and literally act like you have mental disorder at a public forum. Okay. They dress like a normal dude, goes out on dates and lives life, has a job, That's my experience with transgender people. Look at Caitlyn, right? Look at Caitlyn Jenner. Bruce Jenner, the world's most famous, best athlete, becomes transgender as an adult after the entire world knowing who he is, and does it and did the surgeries and lives life now as a female. That is a transgender person. These people were up there saying they're pleading. This one guy says, I'm pleading for my life. Then another one says, if the board does not vote for it, that because I feel unsafe, I will make you all feel very unsafe. I mean, that's a threat. Bottom line, these people were very obviously leftist trans activists who were dressed ridiculously, yelled and screamed, threatened the board, and basically lectured them on why they needed to become a trans sanctuary city. This is not about transgenderism. This was about getting attention and mental health. And I will tell you, I don't understand the attitude. I don't understand why trans people are coming forward and saying they're scared of everybody or they're worried for their life, other than the fact that they're believing all the lies that the progressive left is telling them about the Republican Party or about people that are more moderate or conservative, that we have something against trans people. Nobody is coming after trans people. No one is doing that, okay? Your leftist groups that you believe in are scaring you into becoming activists for this. You have all the same rights as any other human being. The only thing that is being affected right now is military service. And the reason for that is you have to undergo, you have to take hormone therapy. And if you've never had to do that, I did because I had breast cancer and had all my stuff removed. So when you go on hormone therapy, you become crazy. For real, you're not yourself. You don't think right. You don't respond correctly. You're severely emotional to things that you shouldn't be. It messes with your mind and your decision making. You should not be in military service and carrying weapons on the battlefield and responsible maybe for other people's lives if you are undergoing the transformation. You just shouldn't. That's the reasoning behind the transgender thing in the military. Now, as far as doing work off of the battlefield and not with, life-threatening situations, I don't see that there should be a problem with that, really. I don't, as long as you dress in the proper uniform. If you're living life as a woman, then you wear the uniform as a woman, or if you're living as a male, you dress as a male. I don't really understand why that would be a problem, but I do understand being in life-threatening situations and responsible for other people's lives. That I understand because of the medications and the things that can literally affect the way you think. And the only other thing affected right now is school bathrooms and school sports. And that can be solved very easily. I still don't understand why transgender athletes have not said, well, how about we just have a small bathroom just for transgender, for unisex, and it's a small, changing room bathroom that I can use or any other student that is transgender can go in there by themselves and use it. And that way they feel safe. They can lock the door, and do that. And they're not disturbing males or females, whatever. Because usually at that age, they haven't done full surgery. So, as a female in changing clothes, I don't want to see a full naked male body right next to me. I just don't. I don't want to see a full naked female body next to me. Go in the doggone stall. So that's the only things that are really being affected right now. So how about we have their own category in sports, and you have to compete against somebody who is transitioning the same way that you're transitioning. So male to females, they have competition against male to females. Female to males have competition against female to male. And you have your own category of sports in school. And you know why we're not doing that? Because out of all of the athletes in NCAA sports right now, there's a total of 20 transgender athletes. And that's why it's a very small minority percentage of people out of the whole entire population of the United States right now. So, that's probably why, people aren't just like immediately thinking of starting new categories and things. It's because the percentage is very, very small. And I don't think it makes sense to upend entire divisions of sports for 20 people. I just don't. So we talked about quite a bit of things. I have some other things I could discuss with you guys very quickly. I know the EPA got a new leader, Mr. Lee Zeldin. He's doing a great job already. Guess what? He already solved a big problem. 2 months ago, Project Veritas, which does undercover news investigations, they went undercover with an investigation of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, which has basically become Greenpeace. Okay, I'm being sarcastic, but they've gotten extremely progressive and a little bit militant in some of the things that they're saying about climate change and what have you. So they've gone a little crazy over the last decade. In this undercover video, an employee of the EPA talks about how the agency was trying to hide as much cash as possible before Trump got into office. So the undercover reporter asks, well, how did you do that? And the guy says, well, we put cash into the form of, quote, gold bars and essentially tossed them off the Titanic for us to pick them up later and use them. That was a little terminology he used. So basically, what they found out is your tax dollars were being sent to nonprofits, states, Indian tribes, right? Trying to spend as much money as they possibly could before Trump got in office. So 20 billion of our tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution, which has not been named, so maybe a bank. It was done purposefully and in a rush so they could spend all the money and send it to outside government NGOs, non-governmental organizations, so they could still access the money if Trump came in and stopped all the program. So they'd still have money in all these little NGOs. That's what we're finding out about the USAID. Remember, they're finding all these little NGOs that they stashed money and that we were paying for stuff internationally for plays to be put on, for transgender plays to be put on in, I think it was Nicaragua or, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the country, but it was in South America or Central America. And they're Guatemala. What? Why are we paying for that? We shouldn't be. So we clawed back the $20 million. Okay, we got it back from the EPA. And Kristi Noem with DHS clawed back $53 million that was secretly sent by FEMA to New York City so they could pay for the migrant hotels. And Anderson Cooper made a really ugly comment recently on TV saying, well, it's not a luxury hotel. They're lying. I'm sorry, Anderson, but the Roosevelt Hotel was a luxury hotel prior to all the migrants living in it. What it is now, I don't know. I've never been there, but it was definitely a very luxurious hotel in New York City prior to them taking it over. And from what I heard, Pakistan or someone in Pakistan owns that hotel now. So they sent the money from the USAID to this place in Pakistan to pay for it. And this money here from FEMA, the 53 million was sent there. So we were able to claw our tax dollars back. And that's just one example. Go on X and go in the search bar and look up all the findings of Doge so far, and they list the billions of dollars, our money. And we have homeless United States veterans on the streets with no money, no homes, nowhere to go. Disgraceful. And that's my 2 cents for tonight. Thank you guys for joining me on Straight Talk. And I hope to see you here next week. And we'll talk about, I'm sure there's going to be a ton more things to discuss, especially with the rate that this administration is going with all the news every hour. Thanks again for joining me. Enjoy your evening with your families. I'm Stephanie Scolaro, and this is Straight Talk.